jumping around, climbing scaffolding. Played CMA Fest, climbed up to the top of the scaffolding, scared the shit out of my mom.
It was like Eddie Vedder of country music. He climbs the light truss hanging off barefoot. I mean, he was probably 25 feet in the air, 30 feet in the air.
Drake was wild and crazy on stage. I mean, he was climbing rafters. We were in Europe, and he was climbing up the sides of the stage onto the speakers and swinging from these speakers.
When he sings, he puts everything into it. I mean, from the tip of his toes to the top of his hair follicles. That's just D-dub.
It was one of the most high energy shows from a performer, I think, out there.
Move his foot when he's playing and get down. Like he's got this soul that's like he can sing all the country stuff. Like, you know, he's blessed with a voice, worked hard at it, like, you know, talented writer, singer, player, all that. But he's got this soul vibe to me, you know, that a lot of these cats don't have. It's almost sometimes I think it's a little too far out of the box for people to understand.
Drake's energy when he would perform was super high energy. You know, he was bringing it, stomping and running around and singing and getting everybody fired up. You know, I think his energy is infectious when he performs. You know, he's just got a gift, man. His ability to channel his emotion and put it into his song and into his voice.
I felt like I'd had a pretty good life, and I kind of asked God, because I'd made good decisions as a young kid, but like I'd really not faced anything at 18, 19, 20.
You have heard on this Friday, you're going to hear Scotty McCreery, but have you heard about Drake White and the Big Fire? Joining me now is lead singer Drake White. Drake, I would say welcome to Roanoke, but you've been here before.
2,500 people there, very good crowd. We had them. 4 songs in, we're bouncing around. I'm bouncing around. I've got sweat glistening off my arms. And when that happened, I just feel like a little bit of a tick. Like and everything slowed down, way down. Like everything, it was like it went in slow-mo. Everything flipped upside down. My head is on fire. My head felt like it was on fire. Oh, I'm having a stroke.
A country singer who nearly collapsed while performing in Roanoke reveals he has a debilitating brain condition.
I will acknowledge for you, Drake and Alex, I'm sure that it's been difficult somewhat navigating through this, and okay, do you want to do the embolization? Surgery could be an option. Where are your thoughts with that right now?
2019, the stroke had happened. And I was in that state of, really debilitation where I was limited to what I could do. And, shortly after that stroke and me getting kind of back up on my feet, kind of on a walker, I get, the call from Riley to come out to Honey Break.
Obviously, as a duck hunter, everybody heard of Honey Break. Pretty famous place, and I've been fortunate to get to go a lot of nice places over the years. But as my career grew, those opportunities kind of grew with it, and Honey Break was one of those places that was a bucket list place to go. So when I got to come down here the first time, it's hard to really understand the amount of property they have and what goes into having a place like this that produces, amazing duck hunting and really big deer every year. It's kind of crazy to see. So one of those things that you don't come here just once. Certainly, I'm not the only one that comes back every year for that reason.
We're right between Catahoula Lake and the Mississippi River. We're perfect on the X. It's the funnel. Even though we're on the bottom end of the flyway, it's where all the ducks want to stop. Catahoula Lake has been the hub of this area for generations and generations of ducks. And the owner before us put a part of it in WRP, and we've since then put some stuff in WRE, and that's Wetlands Reserve Program or Wetland Reserve Easement. You're restoring it to the dismal swamp or the wetlands that it should have never been cleared in the first place. All we're doing is taking what God created and trying to get it back as close to what it used to be and make it better.
I didn't even know if I could get a set of waders on, and that was a fear of mine, that I would get there and I would hinder the hunt and I would be exposed in front of somebody like Riley or Tyler Jordan that didn't know me very well and didn't know me before the injury. They didn't know the Daniel Boone side of me. They just knew the hurt side of me. And so I told my wife, I was like, I'm not going. I had already established the relationship with Drew, and I'll go on my own, but I don't want to go with Riley and Tyler and those guys. I don't want to hold them up. I definitely don't want to be seen as weak. For me, Riley that was his trip, and now he was inviting me to a place that I should be inviting him to in my head. Not that that's right, but that was my thought. He was inviting me to a place that I had already discovered, That was my place. That wasn't his place. And now he's passing me. My wife, Alex, looked at me and was like, I think you should go.
He was going back and forth about it, and he didn't want to go. I think he was embarrassed, but also the comparison thing was going on, and he was struggling that it wasn't his own invite. He was going to be going with a group instead of something that he did on his own. And I have always just said that comparison is the thief of joy. And I was like, you've got to stop this. You've got to shut it down. This is the enemy attacking you and trying to make you think that this isn't something that these friends and these people want you to come and do. Swallow your pride, suck it up and go.
I swallowed real hard and told Riley, yeah, sure, I'll go.
Take a long nap.
I could have used another couple hours, man.
Your eyes are red.
Bang came in early for me.
Need some Visine?
I slept my contacts, man. Makes my eyes red.
You wear contacts?
I do, man. I'm super blind.
2020.
Shit, no. Drake grew up in Hokes, Bluff, Alabama. I'm from Jacksonville, Alabama. We were a few miles down the road. We were the Golden Eagles. They were the Green Eagles. He was a little older than me, and as a country music artist, I looked up to Drake. Still do. I mean, a huge fan of Drake, and opened for him a few times. His career really took off, and I think I aspired to have some type of career similar to that. Certainly as a duck hunter in Northeast Alabama, we bonded over that. There wasn't a lot of people hunting in Alabama doing duck hunting anyway. So I've always liked Drake, thought a lot of him, and our paths really crossed more, later in his career as mine started to kind of take off. And when I reached out to Drake about coming down here, obviously he'd been here before. We'd always tried to get some hunts together, whether it be in Arkansas or wherever that was. So it worked out great that this was a trip that we really got to kind of spend a lot of time and really get to know each other over. And I would say that trip in 2020 was something that, you know, much like the relationships that I've made here for me and him, like, you know, this is every year we're coming here together to come hunt.
We had the 9-hour drive here, we talked, we cut up, but it was still in the back of my mind, you know, I got to get those waders on. We get here, what's the plan tomorrow? Meet downstairs at 5 o'clock. Cool. I set my alarm for 3:15 a.m. I get down there at 3:45, and I'm the only one in the locker room, and I'm sitting on that bench, and I start struggling. $4:15, $4:30, I still 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and now I'm sweating. Why did I come? You're not even gonna be able to get the waders on. And I don't know why I had this much pride, but it was just the way the injury affected me. Riley comes downstairs and he's like, hey, you sleep good, blah, blah, blah. You know, yeah, I slept good. Hey, man, is something wrong? You know, can I help you? Hey, come here, let me help you. And I'm like, nah, I got it. He's like, nah, and he walks over, he grabs my boot, pops it on, and in that moment, it broke the competitiveness that I had with him in music. It was God's way of breaking that wall down, and we went and waxed him. He, to this day, doesn't know that I had weeks of buildup in my head to that moment, and that moment of sweating on that bench was horrible for me.
Me and Drake are both pretty tough guys, I think, or at least think we are. And, you know, we were down here hunting, and, you know, Drake was really, for lack of a better term, having to relearn how to do a lot of things he'd done his whole life, which is something I can't comprehend. A lot of people would have no idea what that's like. So I remember him, you know, struggling to get his waders. I don't think he could straighten his foot out, you know, and so I think I went in there and helped him out with him, and it was a bigger deal for me to go and say, hey man, can I help you? You know, because he's probably like me, one of those guys where, oh man, I can do it or whatever. But we've always been buddies, but I think going through something like that together and me kind of helping him in ways that probably I would be too prideful to ask for help in, I guess is probably what we bonded over. It's a strange thing to be out here hunting with a bunch of guys and be struggling to get ready to go do your hunt, but you know, he's had to go through a lot of things that I'll hopefully never have to go through and won't ever be able to comprehend. But I can certainly appreciate that. I think Drake's the kind of guy that if I was in that situation, he'd done the same thing for me.
I hope I don't get turned into DHR for this, but at 4 years old, I let him go. I wasn't a helicopter mom at all. He had a little four-wheeler, and I could hear it in our backyard, and as long as I could hear that four-wheeler, I knew he was okay. He would stay out from morning to night, and I had 2 sets of clothes hanging out on the line for him, a dry set and a wet set, and we had a little creek, and he would go down there and he would fish, or he would catch little critters or whatever and bring them back and show them to me, and he'd take those wet clothes off, put some dry ones on, and I kept him a little sandwich and thermos out there to drink, and I just knew he was okay because Drake was so resilient. I didn't worry about him. So I think that toughness and letting him, you know, figure it out on his own and just do his thing is why Drake's like he is now.
From about 4 years old, from daylight to dark, you didn't see him much during the day. He was like a MacGyver. He thought he could invent and do anything. Highly driven. He wanted anything he did, he wanted to succeed and be at the top of the game. He played all sports for the first few years that he was playing sports, and then he decided to give up basketball because Drake loves the hunting world. And, you know, hunting is, basketball season is during hunting season, so he spent a lot more time in the woods. He loved being in the woods hunting. When he went to the woods, it was from daylight to dark. That's how concentrated it was that he wanted to be in the woods from daylight to dark to kill the big buck. We were down there during Thanksgiving. This is in South Alabama. It was Drake, myself, and my dad. And we went down, and the weather it had turned off real warm. And we went out to hunt that morning, and Drake had a new tree stand, and he said, well, I'm going into the woods, and I'm going to stay from the time I get there to dark. So about 1 o'clock that day, it blowed up a storm, and my dad and myself, we came back to the camp because it was getting pretty rough outside, and no Drake, didn't come in. You know, we assumed since it was, he said he was going to stay all day, we stayed at the camper, and he came in about dark. He had killed a deer. So later we was eating dinner and watching the news, and come to find out a tornado had gone through less than 2 miles from where we were at, and he's sitting in a tree that's a pine tree that's swaying all over the place, but he killed his deer. So that was a good story that we still talk about.
When he was a little boy, he sang in the youth choir, he sang in the church choir. He didn't really like that, but he did. And everybody always said, Drake can sing. And I'm like, yeah, right. You know, he loved singing, and he wasn't ever embarrassed to sing.
I was a member of the FFA, and Tyler Elliott, we were having a fruit sale, and then we were in the shop, the ag shop. I heard him playing in there, and I heard him going, and I'll be your crying shoulder, I'll be love suicide, and like an Edmund McCain song, and I heard him kind of struggling with it. And I walked in, I said, what are you doing, man? He goes, man, the beauty pageant is tonight, and they've asked me to play this song. And I just sat down and started singing it. And that song's got a big, crescendo. It's got a big, lift to it. And I nailed it. And he was like, man, you got to sing this song tonight.
I was coming home from work, and I met him out on the road. And I said, where are you headed? And he said, I'm going up to the high school. And I said, what are you going to do? And he said, well, the beauty pageant's tonight. So are you going to go? And he said, no, actually, I'm going to sing. I said, you're going to do what? And he said, I'm going to sing during the intermission of the beauty pageant. So I come running in. I said, David, we're going to have to go up there in case Drake falls apart, And
I didn't think anything of it, but I had my Carhartts creased down the middle. I had my polo shirt tucked in and my frosted tips. And I realized that everybody was sitting out there, and I was like, oh, shit. What did I do? And about the time he started playing the first chords of that song, I had forgot the words, and I looked over at him. I said, hey, what are the first words of the song? And he said, the strands in your eyes. And about that time, I closed my eyes, and I looked up, and I was about to go, the strands in your eyes. And I saw my mom and my aunt walk in the back door. And I just closed my eyes, and I just let it flow.
So we're sitting there, and he starts singing, and I mean, my mouth dropped. I was like, oh my gosh. And he really got it like almost a standing ovation at the beauty pageant at Hokes Bluff.
To my own surprise, I just kind of let it fly. And that feeling that I got of like doing something that scared me was addictive, It was like a buzz. And
kind of knew then that he had it in him that he could do this, I
think every time I take the stage, I still am that young man that walked on that beauty pageant stage and kind of took that leap of faith that, well, maybe it'll work out.
I get this email from my buddy, my now friend, Andrew. Said Drake White's looking for a photographer. And I had no idea who Drake was, honestly, at the time. And I was like, yeah, man, I'm down. I'd love to come out and kind of do a weekend on the road. We played 3 shows that weekend. I mean, it was 1,200 people a night, and they were going crazy. And this guy who I did not know from an artist standpoint, it was wild to just see his energy. And the first night at the Bluestone, it's an old church, and there's a balcony. And he climbed up on the speaker stack and walked along the balcony while he was singing. It was just wild, man. It was crazy. So that was my first weekend with Drake. That's how I met him. It was just do cold emails.
Zac Brown asked me out on tour, had some shows ready to go with him, and everything was going good, and I was going to go get in the best shape of my life. And so I started running. 2 to 5, 6 miles a day and working out and just getting in as good a shape as I could be in to hit the stage. And we had Australia set. 2019 was going to be it.
Every weekend was these big shows, 800, 900, 1,000 people sold out. And then we hit the road with Zac Brown. The fan base from Zac knew Drake real well. So even the shows that we were playing with Zac in 2019, the crowds were big because they were coming early to see Drake. I think he was a song away. He had recorded Mixin' with Whiskey in like May of 2019. We had heard mixes of it, and he was so excited about that song. I think that song could have put him into that next level. And it just felt like we were about to be on a rocket ship.
The spontaneity of you never know what's around the corner. You could write a song tomorrow that changes your life, that changes everybody's life, That's kind of what attracted me to it. It was always this big thing that was bigger than me.
So in January of 2019, Drake had a terrible headache, went to the hospital. He called me and he said, I just went to, the local clinic, and they said, go to the emergency room immediately. So we sat in the emergency room for hours waiting on someone to come back and tell us what was going on because he had such a bad headache. They ended up doing an MRI there in the emergency room. So when the doctor finally came in, we realized that it was a neurologist, and he had, his tag and everything, his coat came in, and we realized the severity of it. And he told us he had a mass on his brain. And he said, it's not cancer, but it is something called an AVM.
An AVM is it's a fairly rare condition that happens in the brain. For some people, you're born with it. I think his case he was. So an AVM stands for arteriovenous malformation. An artery is a blood vessel that takes blood flow to your brain, and a vein is one that lets blood drain away from your brain. And normally the two never see each other because in between them are very, very, very long lengths of capillaries, which become smaller and smaller until they're microscopic, and those capillaries go all over the brain for miles and miles and provide blood flow and oxygen and nutrients to the brain. In an AVM, that small part of the brain, in this case it was the right side and the back, the capillaries are excluded and the arteries go directly to the vein. So there's no capillaries at all in that section, and that ends up creating a shunt so that the blood flow, it's easier for the blood flow to go through that because there's no resistance. It just immediately shunts the blood flow away into the vein. So it comes up the carotid, goes in the AVM, and immediately goes back down again before feeding the brain. And that will gradually over time steal blood flow from the surrounding brain and cause irritation and can cause seizures and headaches and the symptoms that he had. almost all the brain has very important functions, and so you may not, you could damage a very small part of the brain, for example, if it's in the back of your brain, and not be able to see, for example. Or where his AVM was, that's right next to the area that allows him to move the opposite side of his body, so the left side of his body.
He let us know that it was a series of surgeries and that there could be complications with each surgery and the risk that was involved there. And there would be a 2% chance of a rupture, and we still really didn't know what that meant.
We agreed that we were going to be able to do these embolizations on Monday, and we were going to be able to rest Tuesday and Wednesday, and then be back out on the road Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and armed with a blood pressure medicine.
Drake is a risk taker. He's never not going to do something that he wants to do. And if Drake wanted to tour and be on the road and play music, they were going to have to figure out a way for him to do it.
Drake's treatment involved first decreasing the size and the blood flow through the AVM by injecting the tissue glue in there, and then waiting approximately 4 to 6 weeks, and then doing it again. And then each time you decrease the size by, approximately 20% or so, something like that. During those 4 to 6 weeks, you want to keep your blood pressure really, really low. We'd put him on some blood pressure medicine, and you want to, try to take it easy as best as you can.
You got to understand, I had a new band, new management, new everything. Everything was new. And this was after touring with Zac Brown, touring with Eric Church, being on Universal for a couple of years. Man, honestly, I was just like, it's just part of it. I went out there and I played 40 shows, man, and went through 4 embolizations. And felt good after every one of them. I mean, Eddie Vedder of country music.
With each procedure, the risk of a hemorrhage or a stroke or any side effects went down with each procedure, and the AVM was getting smaller and smaller, and Drake was feeling better and better. Really, the fear started to disappear little by little with each procedure.
I can't be stopped, man. I feel good. I feel like frequency is happening. Good vibes are happening. My blood pressure medicine made me dizzy, almost to a spot of like vertigo. So I didn't take it. And I hadn't been taking it for a week or two, and felt great. I felt really good. But the thing was, that Eddie Vedder mentality of performing, the veins popping out of your neck, the way I sang, the way I went at things, is like your blood pressure was bound to come up. And I knew that. But we're still talking about a 1 to 2% chance of rupturing. I'll take that chance.
It was just another day. Guys kick off the show, Drake comes out, dancing around, doing the thing. They started The Coast is Clear, and I remember at the time my back was to the stage, and I remember changing a lens. I was like changing lenses or something. And in our ears, I heard our monitor guy, Greg, say, "Drake, you all right, man?" And it's like I turned around, and that's when I realized that something was wrong.
Something kind of felt off, maybe dizzy. I was just kind of dizzy, but a lot of times I would get dizzy because I would hold my breath or push really hard. And so I just stepped back and I took a couple of breaths, and when I took those breaths, I just kind of breathed in and breathed out, and when I did, I heard a loud, sounded like a gunshot going off in the back of my head, like right here. Pow!
Where do you want me to sit? Right there's good. Ready? Yeah.
I was raised being encouraged to beat on pots and pans, to be the boisterous showman, to get on the tables. So much so, my 3rd grade teacher, Miss Couch, my mom, Miss Melinda White, who is a cosmetologist. She walks up to the PTA meeting. And she walks up, she says, "Hey, Miss Couch, I'm Drake White's mom. How's my son doing?" And she grabs my mom and pulls her in the janitor's closet and says, "Your son is disturbing all the other kids, and he's socially unacceptable to society, and he's singing George Jones songs." And my mom was like, "Well, that's pretty cool."
I just remember seeing him laying backstage, and they kept putting like ice. He was like, they got like bags of ice to like put on his head, because he's like, "My head's on fire." He kept saying, "My head's on fire, my head's on fire." It's like you're kind of in this like state of shock. Obviously EMTs arrived real quick. They put him on a stretcher. I remember them taking him out.
And it feels like you're trapped in your own body, like you're trapped in your own skeleton. And you can't get out, you can't move, you can't say, "Hey, help me." You can't say anything. You're just sitting there and your eyes are open. You're awake. And it's like you're trapped under the ice, looking up, going.
When I got the phone call from his tour manager that it was during the middle of his set, and I instantly knew something was wrong. Drake has a folder with all of his medical history and information in his suitcase. Grab that, what's going on? And so he didn't give me a lot of details, but he did say that Drake had passed out on stage and they were rushing him to the hospital. I jumped in the car and headed north.
All I remembered in that moment was to keep breathing and keep speaking the name. Keep saying the name of Jesus and keep over and over thinking, just keep breathing. As long as you're breathing, you're alive. You know, the next 6, 7, 8 hours, 6, 7, 8 days were kind of a blur.
I specifically started praying for God to send angels to the four corners of the room to protect Drake and to be with the doctors and nurses and give them the wisdom to treat what was going on.
And I remember these 4 figures in the corner of the room, and I thought they were security guards. I thought that it was a big show. But they appeared to be very confident, and their heads never stopped moving like this. Like, "You're okay, you're okay, keep breathing, keep breathing." They didn't say that, they didn't say anything audibly. But I just remember, man, that's cool, they got security guards here. Like, why?
When I got there and got to actually get into the room to see Drake, it was a pitch black dark room. I mean, nothing but the sound of the machines and everything that he was hooked up to, all of the monitors beeping, and I couldn't really see much of him, you know, in his physical state, just knowing that he was in a lot of pain, screaming and yelling with the headaches. And, you know, I go in to talk to him and tell him that I'm there, and he grabs my hand with his right hand because he can't with his left. I have my hand in his left hand, you know, squeezing his hand, and nothing whatsoever. And that's when I realized the severity of it. I knew complete left side was paralyzed.
I can't move. I'm trapped inside my body, and she's gonna have to take care of me forever. We're never gonna have kids. I'm never gonna get back to stage. I'm never gonna walk. All of this flooded in, and for the first time in my life, I understood suicide.
David and I never went to bed that night. We never went to sleep. And we prayed all night that God would protect Drake and that he would heal him. It was very, very hard seeing my strong son, my son that I thought could do anything, and laying in a hospital bed.
So we had been in the hospital probably 3 nights. We were all praying in the room. I mean, we basically turned the hospital into our war room where we would pray and talk and meet with God. And at this point, there wasn't a lot that Drake had said. He had not been able to eat much because he was in so much pain. He hadn't been able to get up with the physical and occupational therapist.
During that time, I was kind of incoherent. But I remember when I saw God, it was almost like this bright light. I didn't see his face, I just saw his back, and he said, "Get up and walk." And I said, "I can't walk." And I knew it was God. I knew it was Jesus. And I hesitated and said, "I can't." But then I got super fearful because I'd hesitated on God. I knew it was God. I knew he was saying, "Get up and walk." And I said, basically, no. And so for a minute, for a brief second, I thought that I'd missed my opportunity to go to heaven. And I quickly jump up, and in my dream, I said, "I'll walk, I'll go, I'll dance, I'll come, let's go." And I jump up.
He sat up complete, it's probably 2 a.m., I guess, and wakes me up because he's talking loudly, and he sits up on the side of the bed. He raises his whole body, and he turns his body off to the side of the bed, and he raises his arm and says, "I hear you, God. I hear you. I'll get up. I'll dance. I'll walk." And I stand up to come over to assist him, and there's nothing there. And I can tell he's like actually talking to God. And within seconds, he lays back down, falls back to sleep, and then for another day or two, never makes another sound, never moves another muscle.
I had seen God. I had seen him. He had asked me if I was coming, if I was ready. And I said, "No, I can't walk." But I've always fancied myself as being, I've always said, I was born ready. And I wasn't ready for that call.
Hello, this is Drake White reporting in on Wednesday, September the 4th on a left-hand squeeze. This is Drake White on September the 4th reporting in on a left-hand squeeze. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
I was grasping for something, a doctor, somebody, medical professional, to say it was all going to be all right. And they're not going to do that. Because Dr. Miracle couldn't do that. He didn't know. Alex kind of said, "Drake, this is a long journey." That was broke by Alex. "This is a long journey back. You're going to make it, and you're going to be playing. I have no doubt. And there'll be people that doubt you, and there'll be doubts in your head. But I have no doubt we will make it back." Dr. Miracle was more like, "Hey, people recover from this. They do. They do. And you can. You're young. You're in shape." And he let me know that. He said, you were in really good shape. And that means a lot going into this. So your chances are good. You just got to keep that. So I hung on to that. I hung on to everything good that I could. Anything that they would tell me, but a doctor's not going to tell you that you're going to be able to move your hand again. You're going to be able to get on stage again, because they simply don't know, and they can't say that.
All right, September 21st, finally getting to leave the hospital. They wouldn't let me walk out of here, but I asked to. But we're walking on a cane. We're headed home to watch some football and see the dogs, and all is well.
Vanderbilt was the next 6 months, 8 months, maybe year of like getting to a point where I could stand up on my own and walk, with a walker.
Start here. Okay? Try not to shift your body. Use your arm. There you go.
My desire was always to go to the next level. I wanted to work out with athletes. I wanted to be around people that were actually thriving
And so I started asking questions about PT and OT and met a guy at Resilient. Came in and met Dr. Griffin Moore.
I knew who Drake White was. I'd listened to his music going downtown and stuff during college, but I didn't know this was him getting out of the truck. And I remember I was working on a football guy, stretching him, and I see Drake getting out of his truck and trying to navigate stepping up on the sidewalk, and I'm thinking, man, do I need to like go help this guy? He looks like he's about to fall down. He's struggling. I remember he had on a banded bottomland camo hat. I didn't know he was a hunter. And so, man, I was just thinking, well, I don't know if I'm going to be able to help this guy, but at least we'll have something to talk about. We got some stuff in common.
It was an answered prayer that there's somebody I could connect to, somebody I could talk with. I had a camouflage hat on. He goes, I like your hat. Brother, every Monday, 8 to 10, every Wednesday, 8 to 10, I'm there. And I'm in a place where it's kind of stale. Like there's nobody playing, there's nobody doing anything. Yeah, I'm working my way back to the stage. I needed that jolt. I needed that primal instinct, that masculinity thing to ignite inside of me to go at it, like a lion, like I knew something to help push that. So my brother-in-law is asking me about putting a game camera up in the bottom of the hollow down here. There's no need to put a game camera down there. Like I can't get down there to hunt it. And he pushes through and does it anyway. And 2 weeks later, we see this 175-inch deer. He's messing with me. Like something's wrong. Like this looks like a Kansas deer. This looks like a deer out of Narnia. And I just remember thinking, no hesitation or anything, going, well, I gotta learn how to climb a ladder.
He came in, he told me like, I want to climb a tree stand again. In my head, I'm thinking, brother, we gotta be able to walk across this turf without falling down. We got a long way to go.
I've always said, like, if you believe you're healing, and if you're creating neural passageways or if you're creating a song, like you're creating.
Not long ago, there was a big study on chronic back pain, and they studied all these different factors about what got people better as far as treatments and what they did and what they didn't do. And the strongest, the thing that had the strongest correlation to their levels of pain improving was belief that they would get better.
Neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to change itself. When I went to medical school many years ago, we were taught that the brain changes when you're a child, when you're less than 5 years old, but then after that it pretty much stabilizes when you're in your 20s and it doesn't really change much. Turns out that's completely wrong. All of our brains are completely changing all the time throughout our life. Every time you learn something new, your brain changes. It physically changes, and the more you strengthen that connection by, in the case of moving your arm, the more you try to move your arm, and in the case of doing a physical activity like climbing a deer stand or playing the guitar or singing, the more you practice, the better it gets.
Every single therapy session, I was working on this, trying to figure it out. And I was working with my wife, like, maybe you can walk down there and help me get up in the stand.
He's getting up, 4:30 before the sun comes up to get back there, and I'm getting up at 4:30 before the sun comes up so I can just look at him with binoculars and make sure he, doesn't fall out of a tree.
I ease up this stand, and I mean, you gotta understand, I gotta mentally say, okay, grip the rung with your left hand, grip the rung with your right. It takes me like 45 minutes to get up this ladder. It's a 12-foot ladder stand. And I'm thinking about the dew or the frost on the rung. You know, when my foot hits that rung, I'm in it. I'm going, okay, I might slip, so I'm gonna hold on with this hand. And I mean, it's just another level of concentration that I had to go through to get up this ladder. Nothing can explain that but God. You know, nothing can explain the fact that he put a world-class animal 75 yards from my back door, and it triggered that primal instinct in my brain to go, you can do it. You just gotta start trying. And it's one baby step, 2 baby steps, 3 baby steps. Gave me something to look forward to and something to drive towards. And I think that's the lesson that I learned. Like, you don't have, you cannot, you know, how do you eat an elephant? The old adage, you eat it one bite at a time. That's all this was. But I got up in the stand that first day of, I think, the 20, you know, that season. And I hunted that deer, and I never killed that deer. I hunted it though, and I was happy.
From a kind of a primal level, I mean, we've been hunting forever. The idea of us not hunting is a lot newer than the idea of us hunting. There's something spiritual about it, something cleansing. I think Drake would tell you too, when you get out the duck blind or the deer stand or the turkey woods, man, you're focused on one thing, and that's outsmarting this beautiful animal that the Lord created. And the worries of finances and family and job and stress and all that, it just kind of fades away, and you kind of get back to what I think kind of the Lord created, where life's just a little bit simpler. That's where I hear the Lord and talk to the Lord the best, just because the busyness and loudness of life isn't present in the woods for me.
You think hunting's helped you, Drake?
Without a doubt. I would say without a doubt, because that's obviously been his, even more so than music, that's kind of been his biggest goal. But I also think it's been probably an escape for him. It gives him, you know, a couple-hour break from the stress of having to get better and wanting to get better. He can just be Drake.
I love deer hunting probably more now because that solitude and being alone and being able to have conversations with God, being able to have conversations with nature, and just be in my head and be there, and being stationary, not having to move around a lot, and the things that the stroke have affected. So deer hunting was easier for me. And me and Drew started hunting, you know, on that trip. And I'm like, man, y'all got some great deer here. And Tyler Jordan was like, yeah, they've got phenomenal deer. And everybody killed. Riley killed, I think, first. Austin Riley killed a great buck. Greg Kemp killed a buck. That afternoon, I was able to kill my biggest buck ever.
It's a 150-yard shot, and he drops him in his tracks. And first thing he does is thank God. I mean, that's something we take for granted, you know.
The fact that I was able to do that was pretty emotional. I wanted to walk to the harvest, you know. I wanted to walk to the animal and pay my respects, and you know, I wanted to do that. And that walk it's almost like I went into like, when you see when all the noise just goes away and it's quiet. And, I remember just walking and saying, thank you.
And you can just tell it was just a moment for him, just to be back, And so his goal was to be back on stage. And that's the same fight and fire that he had to make that hunt as it is to get back on stage. And he got about, 15, 20 yards from the end of it, and I couldn't take it anymore. I just went over and threw him over my shoulder and packed him back down there.
Principle is walking to it. It's just a principle to walk to it. Oh, yeah. You can carry me the rest of the way. Hell yeah. The pig, dude.
Specimen of the species.
It's great, man.
What a stud.
Look at his body, man. Just freaking massive.
That was a big step into the world of like, you can still do this. Not only can you do this, you can teach other people how to do it. And you can raise a son or a daughter to do it. That primal thing kicked in. I was a hunter again. I was, had beat the odds and came back and became a provider in my head. I was capable. I don't think I'll ever be healed. And the reason I say that is because I'll always be working to be better than I was yesterday. So I put that in that perspective. Like, I think we're always working on a wound. We're always working on something. If you're not working on something, you're dead, And so for me, no, I'm not where I want to be, and I never will be.
Having a son has made Drake even more motivated. Music motivates him, the outdoors motivate him, but being a father really motivates him to continue on the tough days when he's, wondering, how are we going to get through this? How am I going to, continue to do X, Y, or Z? It always comes back to our future and our son's future and how he's a legacy to live on.
Limps and scars and adversity is the gateway to dreams and success. If there's one thing that I can brag about this is that I'm not a quitter. And I've never been a quitter. I've never quit at anything, and I don't intend to quitting at this. And if there's something that I can leave with him, it's that everything that happens to you, there's a purpose behind it. And yes, you have free will to make your choices, and you are your choices. And that choice could be to climb the ladder as opposed to go down into the black abyss. And that was the most important choice I made because I didn't have to make that choice. The black abyss is there, just like the ladder to the sky is there. And if Holt looks at me and looks at a man that says, you know what? I want to live like him. I want to live like that. And that's what I hope he takes away, He got the whole world in his Pixcon got the whole world in his hands. He got the whole world in his hands. He got the whole world in his hands. He got the little bitty babies in his hands. He got the little bitty babies in his hands. He got the little bitty babies. You gonna play it? He got the whole world in his hands.
Drake's mom has been a privilege. Watching him grow into a young man, a child to a young man, into a man, and to a father himself, to a husband. I like to think that we've had a little part of that all along the way. And I'm really proud of Drake.
Why did I stick around? I'm a very loyal person. I felt like he still had something to give to the industry, to the world. I've stuck around because I still feel like there is a story to be told, and if I can help tell that, then yeah, that's why I've stuck around.
I've just always believed that that I was meant for something great, and I don't know what that is. And I just remember closing my eyes as a kid in my closet and listening to my dad's records and seeing these massive crowds, dude. Like, and I'm not knowing what that was. That was the Spirit telling me that this is what you were made for. And I haven't seen some of the crowds that I've seen. That's why I'm so convicted in, after all the things we've been through and all the things that I've done, all the emotional setbacks, health setbacks, and all the industry setbacks. I've seen these dreams. I've seen these visions of what's to come. And that's what keeps me going, is hope. Is that hope of helping people and changing people and helping myself, helping my own platform, helping my family, and you know, the legacy of that.